Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Bad Mike Podcast. This is Connor Kurek on the mic, otherwise known as Mr. Connor. It's been a while since I've been on one of these, but I'm sitting here with my co-host,
Makayla Pritchard.
And we have our special guest here today, our IT specialist, as many of you would call him, also in-house DJ for Homecoming and various other dances to come. Butch, thanks for coming here.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for taking your time out of your day to sit with me and Makayla and getting the time. Well, I'm sorry, Makayla and I wouldn't want to mess that up on a school podcast. To do this, we might have another host joining us at some point, but we'll see. Either way, we'll just have fun with it. Makayla, you want to kick it off with any starting off questions for Butch?
Yeah, I'll just read the first question that's on the top of that is, tell us about what brought you to Oyler.
What brought me to Oyler? I think maybe it's kind of like what brought me to Cincinnati Public Schools to a certain extent, in that I've been working in IT for a while, and I was actually out of work for quite some time. And just filling out 20 applications a day sometimes online, I just kind of stumbled upon an opportunity with CPS. And at that time, they were putting together something called My Tomorrow. The whole My Tomorrow initiative is to prepare students of today for their opportunities of tomorrow. And by doing so, that puts a lot of technology in the classroom. And as a My Tomorrow technician, originally I got assigned to a different school. I got assigned to Woodward. And so every couple of years, they reassign us to different locations. And so this was my time to come to Oyler. And actually, I share time. I do Oyler and Roberts, which is right up the hill. So it's not very far apart, but usually I'm here at Oyler in the mornings and Roberts in the afternoons, since they start a little later, too.
Nice. And you've been here, Butch, going on about, what, almost, half a year at this point. I remember you hopped on board in the summer.
Yeah, at the very tail end of July, and at the time of this recording, and we're in the beginning of November, so just a few months.
Yeah, and going back real quick, I remember in July meeting you when you were working with Mark Hesford, and he told me, he kind of nudged me and said, hey, if you need any help with audio for anything related to something happening over the summer, let Butch know. And then that was where I ended up mentioning that we wanted to showcase a movie that some of our students had made over the summer at the film camp. And then you came through with this whole setup that you just kind of made on a cart with a speaker, with a mic, and things that I did not have access to. And you had it done within a day. I just remember that really came in clutch when we needed to have our showcase over the summer to highlight some of the things that happened. And then you even provided a speaker for the TV that we later on used. So all of those things were huge helps before the school year even started. But all of that said, how have you been enjoying your time at Oyler and then going back and forth between your other school too?
Well, shout out to Mark Hesford for giving the nod to me for the audio background, and it's just interesting to me sometimes that if I could use an analogy, that I don't know, if you put trash out on the street like the night before trash day, right? There's usually in every neighborhood there's somebody that drives around with a crazy truck, and they're picking up anything and everything that most folks perceive as trash, but they're hauling it away. And you're like, what are they doing with that? But come to find out, your trash can be somebody else's treasure. So we look at what's out on the curb as trash versus somebody else looks at it in a different way and sees what it can be used for or how they can make money with it. And in that same spirit, when I just kind of walk around the school, I saw all those things, all the things that I just kind of pulled together. And it wasn't necessarily that I pulled them together, it's just that I made note of them. I'm like, oh, there's a powered speaker that could be used for something, and oh, here's a microphone over here. And so when the need came about that, hey, we need this for that, then I'm just able to go back through like, oh, well, I remember when I saw that somewhere. And so I just went back to that place and cobbled it all together and just try to make it happen. But that's what I've been doing for a long time. It's just in the same spirit of hip hop. You just kind of use what you got to make what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how I've been doing with audio for some decades now. Long time.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, I'm trying. If that's any indication, like what happens here at Oyler now since I'm here. Not that I'm, any different than Mark or whatever.
Yeah.
And, Mark was doing his thing when he was here. But, I'm doing my thing. And I've been at Cincinnati Public Schools for 7 years. And a lot of times I feel like I'm the guy that makes the meetings longer. Like I ask questions based upon where I've been in the past. And I say, hey, why can't we do it like this? And I felt like I'm kind of punching above my weight. And so I decided when I came here that I'm just going to try to focus on the little things that I can change, the little differences that I can make. And if I can control that, then I feel like I'm better off and I'm happier. And, speaking of that film camp, not that it's all about me, but I do want to say that, I know, Nolan, you were in the film camp over the summer, and Connor, you were here too as well. And unfortunately, I guess you were not here, but you were in the film class over there, right? So
yeah, I wish I was a part of it, but I wasn't.
Either way, the amazing thing that is happening here is just what you all as students have access to. Like just this studio that we're in right now, I would have killed for this to have this in high school. And you all have just incredible access to all kinds of equipment and all kinds of people like Connor, that can come in with the expertise and the knowledge and the background just to be able to share that with you in the level of education that you're at. Back when I was going to school, you had to go somewhere else after high school or somewhere else. You had to go to get this kind of thing. And it's really nice that it's right in, or you had to go to vocational school. But, it's nice that you have that right here in high school. So you all are definitely lucky to be able to just experience all of this. And I just want to make sure I point that out.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've enjoyed doing all this in the film class and all that, and I hope I can enjoy it till I graduate.
Yeah.
Take that. Yeah.
Hit it off, Makayla, if you got some more questions.
But what all do you do here at Oyler for your job?
Well, for the most part, there's two kind of technical jobs here at Oyler and in most schools. Usually you have a tech coordinator, and at this school, that's Mr. Scholl. And Mr. Scholl, as tech coordinator, he kind of coordinates all of the technology. So he keeps an inventory, he assigns devices, loans out devices, and he does a lot with the technology. But then you also have a person like me, a technician, where if something is broken or needs some kind of connectivity, or if there's some kind of problem, I'm usually the guy that fixes it. So as an example, like in a car dealership, you've got the sales department up front where you go buy the car, but then you got the service department in the back where you got the mechanics back there under the hood. I'm kind of like the mechanic under the hood. I don't fix everything, but if something is really broken, we send it off and somebody else fixes it. But for the most part, I am responsible for all of that local connectivity and local working of the computer. The computer is supposed to work. I'm supposed to try to make it work. If I can't make it work, then I send it off to somewhere else to get it repaired.
And something that I know that you do for the faculty, not just here, but generally at all of CPS, is that right? That it goes out to your tech times, or that's here and
it's just here in Oyler and Roberts.
Well, just Oyler and Roberts is where
Right.
it goes out to. I think I was rereading through some of the things you discussed there, and I know it's a beneficial tool for so many teachers to be more in the loop with what goes on the IT end of things. Do you want to tell us more about that?
Yeah. Well, every Friday at noon, I try to hold a segment that I call Open Mic, Tech Time on Google Meet with Butch Gibson. And my thought there is I know a lot of times that teachers and staff are busy at 12 noon, but I also know, I know Connor. I know you because of the problems that you've had in the lab, that I'm here and we talk and it's like, okay, but I may not know this next room down the hall on the right. I might not know who's in there because I don't necessarily interact with them. Either they don't have problems or they have problems and they just don't call me. Mm-hmm. And so because of that lack of connectivity or lack of interaction, I just try to set aside some time during my lunch on Friday to just have open mic. So if I haven't reached out to you, hey, at least you get my emails and know that I'm trying to reach out to you. And if there's some burning question, maybe somebody can make time. So if somebody comes back and says, hey, that tech guy, he never did, somebody else can say, well, he does that thing on Fridays. Did you go to that? Somebody can do that. So in some ways it's a little strategic, political, but I just try to create time for folks to be able to ask questions or to get help. And I just try to provide tips too, that if there's any tips that I have that would be beneficial, I try to publicize it there. And too late. I was going to say, I don't mean to get long winded, but that's no. When you asked me to be here, it's too late. I'm long winded. But it just, I just try to make that time available for folks to be able to get that information if they need it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that's very good. But I was going to add on to that. Do you think, like you said, like you send emails, do you think like there's teachers here who maybe don't always go through their emails at times or just think that it could be something random or that maybe they just don't know the right person to reach out to for their help?
That's a good point. And that my plan, and I just went through, there's another staff member over at Roberts Academy. He's a Verizon coach, and he's very knowledgeable with Schoology. So I just went through a seminar where he was just trying to teach folks how to use Schoology. So my plan is to create a Schoology group and to add all the members of all the staff of Oyler and all the staff of Roberts into that Schoology group. And for what it's worth, I record every segment. So every segment of this open mic tech time, we all have access to Google. So YouTube is a part of Google. So I'm going to upload all of the recorded sessions to YouTube, put it inside of Schoology. And so when people are in that group, they may not necessarily receive my email, but they can go back into Schoology and look through. And hopefully I'll have descriptions, real accurate and detailed descriptions, so somebody can say, oh, I wanted to watch this. Oh, but I don't want to watch that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I was going to say some people might just not have the time to sit down and watch a video. They might just need it, like, typed out or something like that and all that. Because I was about to say, like, sometimes doing emails, it's also very positive and very bad because sometimes when you send them, they just go straight to spam or, like, teachers don't always keep up with that or they got too much and they're like, oh, whatever. Or they just don't know who to reach out to specifically because it's not information given to them and they struggle, and then it gets frustrated for them because they can't teach the class necessarily. Right.
Well, I don't know if you all have ever been down into the office, down to the front desk with Miss Darlene and Steve down there. But I'm kind of old school too, so that I'm analog. So what I've also done is I've printed out little posters that have all my contact information on it, and it's got a QR code that you can just click with your phone and it'll open up a document that gets to me. But it has my picture on it, not necessarily that I'm vain and I want to see my picture, but in case people, like you said, hey, I've seen you walking around the school before, so that I want people to recognize, hey, that's that tech guy, and that I want people to be able to just face recognition and see that I'm in the school. This is what I do, and this is how to get in touch with me. So I try to be analog too. I try to get it folks any way I can.
Yeah. Because I know, like, times have changed. There's a lot more, like, social medias, different ways to reach people and all that. And not everyone goes new school, but not everyone is old school.
Right.
He does a little bit of both.
Yep, which is good for people.
Here's another way we're reaching out. We're reaching out on the Mad Mike podcast.
On a podcast. Exactly.
All kinds of ways.
But another question is, what do you enjoy most about what you do?
I think tech support to me, again, if you don't mind me using an analogy.
Nope.
Oh, it's fine.
Kind of old school, like I keep saying old school, but puzzles. You put a puzzle together. Yeah. Don't know if you've ever done it. I used to do it when I was little. You put the puzzle together. And at least for me, when I put the puzzle together, when we finally came up with that picture, before, it's a whole bunch of small pieces or whatever. But then as you get closer to the final product, there's just some satisfaction there. There's some satisfaction to putting that puzzle final picture together. And to me, that's the same thing with tech support, that you may have a problem, but if you figure out certain pieces to put together to come up with the final resolution, that to me is satisfying. So that's one thing that I really just enjoy about my job. And then specifically here at Cincinnati Public Schools, this may be one of the most rewarding daytime jobs that I've had. And just, one particular incident, there's a thing called an E-beam. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's what it does is it allows you to use your projector and project your desktop, your computer desktop, up on a whiteboard, and then you can use a pen, a wireless pen, as a mouse. So you're basically up in front of the class and you're using this pointing device as a mouse, and you're pointing and clicking, and you can basically use your computer from the whiteboard in front of the class. Mm-hmm. And I remember I installed one, and it was at Roselawn Condon. Mm-hmm. And when I installed it, the instructor was so happy, and there was a child there, a special needs child. She might have been 6 or 7, and the instructor immediately brought up some shapes on the board and said, hey, come on, point to the square, point to the circle, point to the triangle. Mm-hmm. And the special needs child was able to just actually get up there and point and select those desired shapes. And it just brought me to tears, real talk, just that I didn't do that, but I was a part of it. I was a spoke in the wheel, a cog in the wheel. I was a piece of that allowed that instructor to provide that instruction.
You're the gear that got the clock moving.
Mm-hmm. So that was really rewarding. I mean, I've had some other rewarding jobs, but I remember that incident, and it made me proud and happy just to be a part.
That sounds very wholesome, and a good teacher who really wants his students to get the understanding and learn, no matter if they are special needs or not.
Most definitely.
And just like the joy of having these computers, like once they were up and running and functioning like this, and through all the communication you did on your end, there's a real joy that just comes from that, and seeing the full functioning circle and come together like that.
And if I'll shout her out too. It was Holly Miller. Holly Miller was the teacher where it happened at, and it was quite a rewarding experience.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
That is very wholesome. But so since you DJ'd at homecoming, tell us about your DJ experiences.
DJing at homecoming was a little interesting. It was fun. I had the tools to get the job done, and it's kind of a last minute thing when I was approached by Miss Flea that I guess there was supposed to be a DJ that canceled last minute, so I was able to swoop in. But I've been DJing for a long time, and I kind of had a formula for that, which I felt I wanted it to be effective, and I wanted it to be satisfying. I wanted the attendees, the students that were coming, I wanted them to be satisfied. So I set up when they first asked me, I said, well, hey, you know what? We gotta figure out what the kids want to hear. And so we set up a Google form. I didn't set it up, but somebody else set up a Google form, supposedly. And the students were supposed to be able to put their requests within that Google form. Then that form goes to the principal, and the principal would approve it. And so in that respect, we're safe. That once they get it to me, then I can go over it and figure out what's clean, what's not, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, and then we play off of that list. And I felt that might be the best way to attack it, because, I've been in situations like that before where sometimes, certain songs may not be appropriate for the event. But as far as DJing, that's just one of the things that little tidbit, or not necessarily a trick, but that little procedure that I came up with, it just comes from DJing for a long time. So I've been DJing probably longer than you all have been alive.
Even me?
Wow.
All of your years put together. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I've been DJing since 1984.
Dang
Wow.
It. Got me by a few years. Oh, okay.
So,
Hey, my dad was alive. So
all
was
right,
my mom.
all right.
Same.
But yeah, it's
Actually,
been
my
fun.
mom wasn't yet.
DJing has been fun too. It kind of opens up a lot of doors, and in the same way that the things that you all are doing here, the creativity that you all put in this, the tools that you have in hand, allows you to just kind of cultivate that and come up with your own project, your own brand, and then market that brand. You know, and in some ways, it's in my opinion, it's so much easier now. You know, folks talk about cut and paste. You all familiar with the term cut and paste?
Yeah, that we like use that for when we don't want to retype something.
Right. And then, you know, cut and paste. I was actually cutting and pasting like actual tape and reel to reel. Like you had a tape and you had to cut the tape out and tape it back together. So, you know, I've kind of been through it, but you know, that's how I got through. That's how I got by. But, you know, again, with this digital format that you all have, you have an incredible opportunity to just to be creative and make something, and then just let it loose in the internet. And, you know, you in some ways in control of your own destiny. And it's a lot easier with the internet and with this digital media and this creativity that you have and these tools right here, just in this room.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, because I mean, like online, if there's like if you're trying to look for something, like you can go online and look for like different jobs or find like certain educations that you might not have known about, or research something more to get smarter about it, or, you know, always find like video tutorials and all of that, and maybe find things for a good price and start all your little thing and maybe set up your own business, like whatever you plan to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I have more plans. I hope that this can have more plans, like add camera so we can do it like on YouTube and you can actually see everyone and, you know, add more to it.
I mean, just the app TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
You know, TikTok has so much that can be done just in the app itself. It's just mind blowing sometimes. Oh. You know, I heard some folks on the previous podcast. I listened to a couple that I don't want to necessarily say they were relevant, but I'd say more recent. I listened to the more recent ones. So I listened to the triplet that was here, and I listened to is it Dave and Dave down there? Is that right? Brian and Brian, right?
Talbert and Hatcher, yeah,
right.
Brian,
you know,
Brian.
Listen to that. You know, those were this year, and they were, you know, fairly recent. So, and I just it was interesting sometimes to hear people talk about how old they were and what happened when and then, and I just found that not necessarily that they dated themselves, but when speaking about the past, you know, sure, I just talked about cut and tape, you know, so that may date me. But what I can say that may be an evergreen statement is the world that I grew up in doesn't exist anymore. And so, you know, whatever I did back then, you know, it can't necessarily be, I mean, maybe the fundamentals could be applied if it's very generalized, but a lot of that stuff just doesn't exist. That cut and pasting the tape, that doesn't exist. It's a whole new world. Yeah. And you've got all new technology. But again, it's just, you all are incredibly lucky just to have access like this. I promise you that.
Yeah. Like, it makes sense how it could be more easier, but at the same time, it could also be more expensive if you have, you know, maybe money troubles or something. But, you know, you can always find ways around it, and it's a lot easier to edit movies or films and all of that because you can always find a little free access or something, and there's different ways to get, you know, things done and all that, and it makes everything easier for people.
You can do a lot with your phone, which is amazing. You know?
A lot of people have their careers just on their phone until they can upgrade to the camera, until they can upgrade to their own little studio, until they can upgrade to something huge. You know, like, you can take, like, a lot of the beginner YouTubers, like PewDiePie, like how big he's gotten, or, like, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, like, a lot of the first gamer YouTubers are, like all the first ever YouTubers out there, they weren't making money at first. They were just doing it for entertainment purposes, and then it blew up. They started making money. They got a lot more fans. Like, they were able to upgrade their stuff, move into better places, and help their families out. Like Steve Harvey mentioned when he was growing up.
Mm-hmm. Right. You make money and you reinvest that money. And if you do something you love, it in theory, it's never work. It's just something you love and you get paid for it.
Something that along the lines of DJing and just your job here and interactions with these students, with me and everything is, I feel like at the center of it is not necessarily just the IT work, but the people, because you're helping people using, you know, your specialty in IT. and just computer knowledge. Something I read on your website that I thought was interesting was you said that you might have interacted with over like nearly 100,000 people one-on-one at this point.
Yeah.
That was it's a cool thing that I read. If you want to kind of elaborate more on that, just because it stood out to me for sure.
Yeah, well, for the most part, I try to be a expert in communication to a certain extent. I try to be bilingual. You know, I try to read body language and I try to listen. But as far as the number of people, I used to work at a help desk, actually a couple of help desks. And, you know, I worked there for about a decade at different help desks. And so on average, I might take 30 calls per day. So 30 calls a day, that's 150 calls a week. 150 calls a week times 50 weeks a year, take out 2 weeks for vacation, times 10 years. You know, that's 75,000 people right there. And I worked for more than a decade. And I often took more than 30 calls a day. So each call, you know, I'm talking to a different person. You know, so I have literally talked to at least 75,000 people one-on-one. And then that doesn't count like when I DJ'd, you know, I DJ'd on radio. So then I'm talking to potentially me to 250,000, you know, the population of Cincinnati. Because not that it matters, but WIZF, I used to work on there. So, you crack the mic open and, you know, you got 250,000 people in Cincinnati. So if 200,000 people are listening, 250,000 are listening, and that's how many you're talking to. And then right here, you know, we crack the mic here. You don't know how many times this will get downloaded or replayed.
Got over 100 downloads, everybody.
Nice.
We're getting there.
So,
And plus, like, you know, there's people that are, like, probably listening to this or maybe not in Cincinnati. You know, they could be in a different state and just know different languages and all that. And, you know, it can be very helpful. And you never know who, you know, listens, or if people share it with their buddies and there's, like, 5 people listening at once, you know, or they come back and hear it a couple times with different people.
right. Like this is 4, you know, this adds to it as well. You know, it's 4 of us talking together. So that adds to that number of, you know, how many people you communicate with.
Because, I mean, you can communicate with however many people. It's just how it goes and how it works, you know?
Yeah. And those words, there's another thing I say, that words are like bees. You let them loose, and they might go and make honey, but then they might come back and they might sting too. So.
Oh, yeah. You know, like, one of our recent podcasts, the Halloween one, like, you know, we were laughing and having fun, but, like, most of the topic was about, like, our own paranormal experiences, which were leaving stings on people, you know, but, you know, laughing about it and also talking about it also left some honey and probably made people better, and also people happy that, you know, people have their own paranormal experiences, and, you know, makes people question if it's true or not and all that. And
yeah, you can't control.
And like the anime one, where me and Kobe were maybe arguing at times, but you know, we were laughing and joking.
Yeah, you can't control what happens to those words. I mean, you can do your best to cultivate and, you know, guide the words, but, you know, somebody may hear it and hear it differently.
Yeah, because you never know how someone can interpret things or how someone reads things, and, you know, if you can maybe, like, with, like, public schools and all that, you can learn to read a lot of body language and how to decipher, like, certain text messages and understand people's, like, you know, stuff and about them by, like, the words they say, how they talk, their demeanor, their position, their text, how they type it, by just getting to know them a little bit more and communicating. Communication is very good, not just if you're helping someone fix their device, or if you're a therapist, or if you're just someone who really doesn't need to talk to someone. You maybe talk to one person a day for your job. You know, just communication is good no matter what.
Good thoughts, Makayla. I like you putting your thoughts into speech. You're good at that. You're good at not a lot of people can accurately state kind of what's going on when with their thought process.
Well,
so
yeah, and I have a more, like, down-to-earth personality, and I understand a lot more, and I try to put my beliefs out there because I think they're general beliefs that a lot of people have. They just don't know how to get it out there in the world, and that's why I want to be a therapist when I go older and help people understand that, because I wasn't able to understand it myself when I was younger, and I struggled with a lot, but I got through it all, and I want to help other people, especially teenagers, because I know they need it the most.
Dig that. So you helping people right now just by being on the microphone and practicing your skill set to be able to talk to folks and pull things out. So
yeah, because I figured if I ever had like an online career, it'd probably be like a podcast to talk about like maybe recent news, like murder cases, because I'm into those type of topics, shows, anime, or maybe just do like advice for people, so that like not just work in my office is the only way that people can hear my words and reach out to get help, and be able to have like those online outlets that people can contact me and be a safe spot, that if I had any fans that they could feel comfortable with reaching out. And I'm their therapist, but they don't got to pay for me. They're just them being there, maybe watching my videos or downloading it or donating, can help out in the long run.
Okay. All right. I see.
Yeah, I might have a couple plans for my future. But I'm also really into like filming and all that, and I know the couple people I know are really into that too, so I can help. And since I'm into video games and like anime and movies and all that and TV shows, I can help them when their favorite character dies.
All of these skills, these little things you're learning, what you're saying, are all going to come together and form the perfect, unique career that might not even exist yet, that you're going to pioneer. You just don't know.
Right.
That's the best thing about it. You don't have to know. As long as you're just honing in on these skills.
Yeah, because I mean, like, everyone has
them.
their own career, and like 50 people can have the same career, but they each do it differently. You know, some people can take their career and do amazing things with it, like I plan to do one day, or maybe they can take their career and do absolutely nothing with it and just you see it as a job, or you know, just do it because it's another day in the life for them, or they're doing it because they actually want to make a change.
Take that.
Because, like, you know, being an IT person, you're helping people with their, like, technology instead of being, like, rude and nasty. Like, I don't get how people don't understand this by now. Like, you know, you help people, and you might help the same person a couple times, or you're helping a lot of people with, like, maybe the most easiest thing that they could just fix on their own. They just don't know how to. But you don't get frustrated. You're there, you're understanding, and it gets done. Yeah. You know, you just got to learn to have that patience and be able to be around people. Even if you're an introvert, you can still show you can be an extrovert in different ways without realizing it.
I think that's an interesting point that somebody used to do a skit where there was an IT guy. I don't know if it was a comedy show. It might have been Mad TV. And he had the IT guy, but the IT guy was like the stereotypical IT guy, where kind of like what you said, the introvert that didn't want to talk and just was aggravating, wasn't really a people person. And you know, I don't know, maybe I'm just blessed or whatever, but I feel good about working with people, trying to help out. Like I said, that whole puzzle thing that comes together, that's satisfying to me. So I don't ever feel like I get into that kind of I don't know even know what I'd call it, a funk or something where people where the IT guy is just the rude guy. I don't want to be that guy.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, everyone's different, you know? Yeah. Like, sometimes you can have, like, a therapist that helps you, or a therapist that might mock you behind your back, and you lose that trust. You know, I've seen it happen online. You know, like, there's this one absurd TikTok I seen where this girl's like, oh, you have a patient that came in and dumps all their drama on you, and then you say, like, never again. You know, it's like, that's not being a good therapist. That's just, you know, being a really bad and nasty therapist. And if someone gets yours, they're not going to trust you, and you're going to lose your job. You know, that stirred up a lot of controversy, and it deserved it, because that's not how you take your job. You're supposed to be there to help people, not to be mean or talk behind your back. And a couple doctors have gotten that. But, you know, people take social media to their head at times, you know?
You know, when I wanted to learn more about IT and computers, I had a little bit of a challenge, because I was working with a guy, and he was a nice guy, but there were times that I felt that he wanted to have the information and wanted me to get that information from him. And it became difficult, because when I wanted to do things, I wound up having to go to him, and he'd do it for me. And I didn't feel that I was learning anything. And, you know, I didn't want to complain about it, because he was nice enough to provide me with the resolution to the problem. But it just got me frustrated that I didn't learn. And so what I did, and I'm just sharing that because it is a little small formula that I came up with. At the time, there were magazines available, and there was one called PC Novice, or there was something else I think called New to Computing. And these magazines were like $5 or something like that. So what I would do is I'd save my lunch money. And so I'd kind of budgeted like $5 a day for lunch. And instead of buying lunch, I would go to the computer store and I'd pick up that $5 magazine. And I'd read that thing cover to cover until the next week when I again saved my little $5 and I'd buy another magazine. And, I did that for a couple of months. I just kept reading. I was real diligent about it. And I began to learn more. And so I didn't come to that. I didn't go to that guy to ask him any questions anymore. And he began to come to me. So, hey, man, how'd you do that? And I felt I turned it around. I was free with my freely sharing. Oh, here, it's like this. Here, you just do it like this. And sometimes I think that built up the karma for me, that it allowed me to continue and to grow. And I felt good about growing and I felt good about sharing. But point being, it's easy and almost free to get that knowledge. Like, especially now, like we're talking about, you can just watch YouTube videos and become an expert at just about anything if you got enough time to watch those YouTube videos.
Yeah, and what you said is very good because, communication is key, as a lot of people say, but sometimes people get scared to talk to someone because A, they might not feel that bound to trust, or they're worried to make something rocky or possibly destroy something that is good. But you just gotta sometimes take that deep breath, let it out, and say what you need because, he might not have realized what he was doing because some people can be overbearing like that but not connect the dots that they are. My dad's like that, and sometimes you just gotta talk to them. But, it's different when it's a family member and a complete stranger or someone you barely know and you're not maybe close to, or a friend, or, heck, it could just be like a partner, in a relationship. Just the communication is key, and it's sometimes hard but it's not like back in the old days where you'd lose your job if you look at the boss wrong, We're learning about that, but,
I don't know. It's getting tougher every day sometimes.
But, it's just sometimes you need that communication. And if you're maybe scared to get that courage, sometimes you can ask someone else, or, as you did, and you looked it up on yourself and learned on your own, or, maybe talk to someone who's a little higher up, or, maybe talk to someone that's close to you to give the courage or everything. Because there's some things I've talked about to people that I was really scared to bring up, but sometimes you just need that moment to collect your thoughts and say it, Depends if it's stressful or not, like a test is stressful and you're like, is this the right answer? Is this the right answer? Just sometimes you gotta take that deep breath and wing it at times. And sometimes good things can happen and sometimes bad. It's just sometimes you gotta take those risks. And like if you're an introvert, it's harder because when you do get into good relationships, it's harder to work through them and all that when you have a problem because you're scared to lose things like that. But if you're an extrovert, you probably won't care because you're like, I can make a new friend. But, it's just all on the type of person, because I know I'm definitely an introvert. But, I got a lot of friends, more than I give myself credit that I have. But you always connect to some more than you do others.
Yeah, I love the story about you saving that money to read that magazine. So are you mostly self-taught then, Butch?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I got a degree, but my degree is in broadcasting. So, I have nothing in computers other than after getting into computers, then I began to take, just basic job related stuff. They'd send me to, some kind of training or something like that. So I got a lot of on the job training, but for the most part, just self-taught.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
And that shows a lot to your character that, like, even when you felt like stressed out in that situation or like upset, you didn't let your emotions take control and maybe do something you'd end up regretting. You said, all right, let me be smart about this. And, I might not be able to have the courage to talk, but I have the courage to self-teach myself and let me do it that way because it might be embedded better. You learn a lot by just reading something and you don't maybe realize it at first, but once you reread it or you keep reading it, you get it down and you learn. And like self-taught is probably one of the best ways at times, but it could also be the worst way because it depends on the type of person you are. Not everyone can handle that, and I'm not trying to be mean when I say it, but sometimes you need that guidance because you might be confused or stuck on a part, and that's where the communication comes in, because not everyone can do what you did and not everyone can talk like I have. Because I've struggled a lot in school, and I haven't been able to talk to teachers at times because I've been so scared and nervous, But it's just something you learn because, in a lot of schools, the teachers don't connect to you on a personal level. But if you have someone like Mr. Sage and Miss Scyther or Mr. Connor, Miss Staley, they show their true selves. They're not holding it back. So you can connect with them more, them more, and then when you have a problem, you can talk to them and let it out and not feel like they're judging you because they're actually there. They show their care and appreciation and all that.
Well, you mentioned the different staff members, and we talked offline, but I would be remiss if I am on the Mad Mike podcast here at Oyler if I didn't mention the principal, Mr. Michael Allen. Allison. Michael Allison. If I didn't mention him, because he and I have a bit of a history, which is comical to me, and it kind of tells me my age, because apparently I have told him directly the same story over and over again for apparently many years. But as I mentioned, I've been DJing for a while, and I just want to say that even when I came here the first time back in the summer during one of the block parties, that I walked up to Mr. Allison and I told him the same story that I'll just tell you very, very quickly, that many years ago, back in the late 80s, there was a theater downtown Cincinnati, close to where the FC Stadium is now. There was a theater, and it was called the State Theater. Well, Principal Michael Allison, his father's name is Michael Allison, and so his father bought the State Theater, renamed it to the Allison's West End Theater. And so in the Allison's West End Theater, they used to have concerts, talent shows, and they would show movies. And as I mentioned, in the late 80s, I mentioned before, I started DJing in 84. So I had been DJing for at least 5 years by 89. And so I started working down in the Allison's West End Theater. And I would run the sound for the talent shows. I would play the music. I'd run the projector. And so every time I see Mr. Allison, I say, "Hey, man, you know what?" And I tell him this whole story. Your dad, I used to work for your dad. And when I told him that this time, when I saw him at the first time I saw him at the block party, he just kind of gave me a dirty look and walked away from me. And I'm like, "Man, why is that guy acting like that?" But then when he got in front of an audience where there were other people around, he took the opportunity to say, "Now, this guy right here, I don't know how old he is, but he was an adult when I was a child, and he's been DJing all that time. And every time I see him, he tells me the same story, that he knows my dad." And we just laughed about that.
He's like, "Now we're working." He's like, "You're working with another Allison again." He's like, "You working with dad, now you're working with me."
That made me feel my age right there. But it was quite funny to me. But I will say that, just beyond working for Cincinnati Public Schools, it's definitely an honor to work with, the man's son that I used to work with, so seeing his development and his growth is amazing. And in the same spirit, it's the same way with Al Pacino Beauchamp, who also I knew as a child when he was a child. It's just amazing that at this point in my life that I get to reconnect with folks that I knew from the 70s, 1970s and 80s, and I knew them as children, and I see them now as adults, and it is just an honor to see them in the positions that they are in and in command and just trying to make some things happen. So that is just it's an honor and a pleasure and a privilege just to be able to work in that capacity. So I just want to make sure I point that out.
Butch, any other hobbies outside of just the IT world, the broadcast world that you want to talk about, that just things that beyond just the school and things like that?
No, that's about music and computers. Is about all I do. I just and I have a lot of fun with it. So it has been a wonderful time, and it's fulfilling, and something that I guess we could all repeat and just say, I am the best at being myself. You know, I'm not running a race with anybody else. I'm the best at being myself, and I'm the best Butch that I can be, and I've had a good time with it. And hopefully you all can say the same thing, that you all can be the best at being yourselves and have a good time with that as well.
Like, I know, like, I'm pretty much me. Like, at school, you know, I might monetize some of the things they say, but I'm me as I am at home, you know. Maybe not as buck wild, but, you know, I am me, you know, and I am honest, and, you know, I try to keep things, you know, real and all that. You can ask, like, a lot of the people I've talked to that, you know, I'm a very kind, generous person, but at the same time, you know, I can be myself and be chill with people, and if I need to be a little bit, like, rude, but, you know, it happens. But is there anything else you would like to share that we haven't asked you about yet?
No, you all have been gracious hosts, and I appreciate it. I just appreciate the opportunity. Feel free, if anybody wants to connect with me, you can get at me at all platforms at Butch Gibson. You talked about I've been Butch Gibson at butchgibson.com. That's been my email address since 1998.
Wow.
So
I was 1. So let's all date ourselves some more.
Me and Nolan weren't alive. Our parents were, just we weren't.
I jumped on that bandwagon quick when that domain was available. Yeah, you know, butchgibson.com. I took it and, you know, held on to it ever since.
Which is very smart, because it keeps you in a more swoop of technology, and you're more equipped with it than maybe a couple more than maybe some other older IT guys are, you know. Just saying, you know, not to put something on your age, but, you know, it's
uppercut. Yeah, that's all right. I'll take it. Hey, I'm proud of my age. I was born in 1964. I'm good.
My dad was born in 1970.
What?
My dad was born in 1970.
All right.
There you go. My dad's older than you by 2 years. You hear that, Dad? Yeah.
Yeah, my dad's like younger.
He was actually a radio host too. Kind of cool story. Just throw this in there. Random fun thing. When he had his journalism degree from Washington and Lee, and so that would have been in the 80s, and that college is in Virginia. He interviewed Joe Biden. Like, he was reported on him when he was, I think, a senator at the time.
Nolan's like, I'm interested.
Just a cool little, it'd be cool to see you and him talk, because he has background as a radio host, just in the journalism world too, and kind of the music side of the tech world. And so, yeah, just kind of cool hearing you talk. I was thinking about that a little bit.
Maybe a future podcast idea.
Get Rob Kurek?
Get a special guest from Rob and Butch.
Well, how about real quick before we wrap up completely, any advice you want to share for Oyler students as they wrap up their first semester of the school year?
Well, definitely, like, just to kind of summarize everything that I've said, that you all have an incredible opportunity with all of this equipment and all of the people that you can pull from, not only the equipment that you can use and the people that you can pull the knowledge from, that all of that is at your fingertips, at your disposal. Take advantage of it and be creative. Just the bottom line, be creative with what you have, and that this opportunity with the equipment and the staff gives you a bit of a heads up. You have a bit more than other folks that are out there because of what you have inside of Oyler High School. So use it to your advantage. Don't let anybody try to stop you. You be yourself and keep at it. Be creative.
Thanks for sharing that, Butch.
Very good advice.
It makes an impact. It does. I'd say, unless there's anything else you'd like to say to wrap it up, I think we can go ahead and close out. Thank you, Butch, for doing this today. Thanks for giving us your time.
Yep, thanks for joining.
For coming back from Roberts to be here back at Oyler with us, and we hope to do something like this again with you.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That was Butch Gibson. My name is Connor Kurek, and I'm here with
Makayla Pritchard.
And that was the Mad Mike Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great morning, day, evening, or whenever you're listening. Thank you so much.